Hello, my love, and welcome to Seen, the podcast that helps you to stop hiding, claim your worth, and build the most vibrant version of your life possible. Thank you so much for being here. Hello, my love, and welcome to Seen. And today I'm so excited to bring you behind the scenes on my journey of closing the doors on a six-figure program to call in something even better. And I want to give you my framework that I use whenever I want to reinvent myself and really set up something that can be even better than you imagined. Because at the end of the day, we're the ones that are designing our lives. And if there's something that's happening for you right now in your business that you want to change, it stops with you. You're the one that's going to have to do this. And so I want to show you and share with you behind the scenes how I approach this process as someone that has reinvented myself multiple times and really being able to let go of what's good for something that's even better. So let me take you back to the beginning. When I was working in my agency, I was working 80 hours a week. It was chaotic. I was tying my worth and my identity to the business and the success of the business. And so I didn't stop, because when I stopped, the business stopped. And so I hustled even harder. And when I had my kids, I realized that I couldn't keep operating like this. So that's when I pivoted the first time into my program, Booked Out Brand. Now, Booked Out Brand was incredible because for the first time in my life, I was able to package up my knowledge and my expertise into a program that actually gave me my life back. I went from working these 80-hour work weeks to being able to work 20 hours a week, be fully present with my kids, and do something that I absolutely loved. And it was getting clients incredible results. I was still making multiple six figures, and on paper it looked incredible, and it was incredible. And so to actually be able to turn around and close the doors on that, is a decision that a lot of people didn't really understand. So I want to break that down for you today. So the reason that I decided I wanted to shift things is that for the first couple of months that I was running the program, it was amazing. It just gave me this whole new lease on life. But as I went on that journey of becoming the business owner that could hold space for people and build that program, I was doing a lot of inner work. I just had 2 kids that were under 3. We had just moved interstate. It kind of felt like my life was unraveling in all of these areas to be built back up again. And what I realized was that the first time in business, I was really tying my worth to the business and really operating in a place of fear. And it wasn't me letting inspiration flow through. It was fear of like, oh my God, like, am I going to miss the deadline? Am I going to make the bills? Am I going to make payroll? Am I going to be able to make more profit this month? Am I going to be able to achieve this, achieve that? And everything was kind of driven on fear. And when I went into creating Booked Out Brand, as I said, there was a whole new lease of life, but I still was creating from a space of what is going to make sense commercially, what is going to give people the best outcome that they can get. And so I created a program that was all about helping people bring in more high ticket clients, because I knew that was a skill set that I had. And I knew that that was a demand in the market and something that I could really do. But as I went on this journey of self-trust, it allowed me to ask myself, could it be even better? Because what I started finding was that on this journey of discovery that I was going, working on my relationships, working on how I mother my children, working on how I actually show up in my life and my internal world, my health, I realized that these things had such a powerful knock-on effect in my whole life, in my happiness, in my ability to actually just enjoy the life that I was creating. And so I started to realize that the program that I was actually running just didn't encapsulate all of the things that I wanted to speak about and all of the things that I knew had benefited me so much. And I almost felt like I was selling people short by only covering the tactical, process of building your brand and bringing in clients without going into that identity work. And as I was going through that experience, I also noticed with the women that I was working with how they also needed that support. There was so many women that I worked with that were getting the results, like they were bringing in the clients, they had increased their prices, they were showing up more online, but they still felt like there was still something missing. It was still like there was still a fear of like, could it all be taken away? And even if they did have a great launch, oh my God, am I going to be able to do another launch again? Like it was still this like fear and this lagging identity. Like they had made these achievements in their outer world, but they still felt like that person that was not achieving, that wasn't worthy of all the things they were creating. And I just knew this isn't just me. Like, women need space to actually be seen in all of these areas of their life and to work on them as a whole person. And so I had to actually, instead of like, I had all these goals last year. I was like, I'm going to grow the business, I'm going to grow the program. I actually ended up hiring, well, I tried and failed to hire two different salespeople throughout the year. We had our best month when I was running ads and taking all of the sales calls myself. And I was just completely burnt out from that. And I was like, there's no way that I can sustainably do that. I need to bring in a salesperson. So brought in a salesperson. It didn't work out. And instead of being nudged by that and looking at that as a lesson and being redirected, I was like, I'm going to just do it again. And again, did not work out, both for various reasons. But it was like, it just had this feeling. Now, sometimes, you have to try and try again until you get things to work. Of course, I acknowledge that. But sometimes, and you just have to listen to your own intuition here, what the answer is. But for me, it really felt off. It just felt off. I didn't enjoy training a salesperson. I didn't enjoy having, like, with a salesperson, they might be doing the selling, but you have to be like mentoring them and coaching them daily. You have to be checking their calls, giving them feedback. I completely did not resonate with that. It did not feel in alignment. It did not feel in flow. And even though I knew that a little bit the first time, I kept trying to force it. And why? Because that's what felt safe to me, because it was logistical and it was logical. It was like, okay, I've got this program. It makes sense. It's getting results. It's getting an outcome. It's easy to grow. There's a demand in the market. The ads are doing really well. Now it was like the logical step-by-step approach. There was not much intuition there. Because for me, for a lot of my life, trusting my intuition just didn't feel safe. Control has always felt a lot safer for me. And I had to go through experiences last year that just made me realize, these salespeople being some of them, that even when I try to control the outcome, like, okay, I'm going to hire this person, I'm going to train them up, I'm going to run the ads, control, like metrics, logistics, etc., it still doesn't work out the way you want it sometimes. And so we think that having control is going to give us the outcomes that we want, but it's not. And last year was such a powerful lesson for me in trusting myself and trusting that I don't have to control everything and that it's safe to flow with life. And what was really beautiful was that I actually had an amazing friend that reflected that to me at one point. She just said to me, because I was trying to get her to come in as like a third salesperson. And she was like, I'll do it because she's in sales. But she was like, what if you were to just let go? Like, what if you were to just let all of this go? And I was like, what are you talking about? I can't do that. Like, are you high? I can't let go. What would I be like? No. And I just burst out crying. And I was like, what? Like, I was just completely like caught off guard by this idea and this question. Like, of course I can't let go. Like, I've got responsibilities. I've got this, I've got that. What would I say? What would people think? And eventually I sat with it and I just thought, you know what? What if I do let go? What if I just pause for a little bit and see what drops in, if there's something better, even better to come? And that was such an evolution for me, because the first time with going from the agency to the program, it did still make logical sense, because I literally could not continue in that business model with kids. But with the program, everything was working really well. There was no major complaints. I really enjoyed what I was doing. And so it actually took a lot of self-worth to be able to say, yeah, that's awesome. And it can actually be fucking better. And I also was realizing that, there was nuances to everything. So that was really my first year of being in like full time in this coaching and mentoring space. And I learned a lot about myself then. I learned a lot about my preferences, the way I work. I really leaned into my human design, which as a manifesting generator, if anyone is like that too, you would know that it's all about having more fluidity and flexibility and be able to work on different projects and being inspired. And so actually running a program that was like a 3-month program, and it was like step by step, and then I was rinse and repeating that every time new people joined, that was actually a little bit draining on my energy because I had so many other things that I wanted to talk about and so many other things that I wanted to share and expand on. But I did feel a little bit privileged. Like I did feel a little bit entitled and even thinking that, like, who am I to want even better? Like, this is fucking amazing. I've gone from 80 hours to 20. Like, I've got 2 scheduled calls a week. What do you mean even better? You know? And I felt like, am I just being an entitled little shit right now? There was that voice in my head. But I had to really lean into self-worth and realize that, like, I'm worthy of more and I can continue to it can continue to be even better. And here's what I want you to kind of take away from this, because when we pivot and when we lean into redirections and we look at things happening in our lives as for us and follow those breadcrumbs, it doesn't always mean that we have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And so instead of me just like burning that to the ground and moving on and going in a complete different direction, instead I just looked at, okay, well, what can I do to make it more true to me? And so what felt more true to me, and I really gave myself like 2 months to feel into this, and it was extremely uncomfortable because I hate not having a plan. I never don't have a plan, but I allowed myself to really just feel into like, what could that be? And what was coming through was more of like a mastermind structure and container. I knew that I wanted to infuse the identity work that I had done with the strategy and the tactics, because when you work on your relationships, when you work on your health, when you work on your self-image, when you work on your confidence, all of that reflects out into your business in a much greater way than any strategy ever could. And so I wanted to be able to work with clients where I can bring all of that to the table and where we can have a more intimate container, where we can actually be in person once a quarter, designing their plan, actually mapping out how they're going to step into this new version of themselves, working on everything from their styling to their relationships to their visibility plan. Because the thing is, when you feel resonant in yourself, when you feel like you're aligned, it is so much easier to share. It is so much easier to podcast, to post content, to jump on a webinar, to sell, because you're just so connected to your mission and your message that everything just flows. And so that is actually a business strategy. And a lot of people might think, oh, that's just like a bit woo, like I need a hardcore strategy, like tell me how many times I need to post, give me a strategy to follow. But this, without actually doing that work and embodying that person, you're not going to fucking do it. Like that strategy is going to go into a drawer and you're not going to look at it again for the rest of the year. So it is so important to actually do that inner work and infuse that with having the accountability, with having the people in your corner that are pushing you on, bringing all of those things together. And so that is what I've done now with my Expand Mastermind. And if you're listening to this and you feel like there's been a missing piece with just having the tactics and just having the strategy, just hit me up on Instagram, send me a DM, and I'll let you know honestly if you're a good fit for this, because it's not going to be for everyone. But later in the year, I'm going to also be doing in-person events. Like everything that I'm going to do is going to be around this philosophy of inner and outer work. And it's also going to be shaped around what lights me up and what works with my energy, which is being able to go and teach on different things each month that are lighting me up, about doing one-off events and one-off containers and things that I can just have a real burst of energy with. And so this is an invitation for you to look at your business and look at where you can actually design it around what lights you up and what your energy is. And it doesn't mean pivoting and redirecting doesn't always mean you have to completely go in the different direction and start a complete new business. So the program that I had, Booked Out Brand, that's still going to be given to people as a self-paced course within my mastermind. I'm also going to be selling it as a self-paced course, because it's still incredible information in there. People have gotten epic results. However, it was just the format that wasn't really resonating, and the name, because Booked Out Brand, I don't want to be booked out, and neither do my clients. So now everything is run through my brand Seen Collective, because it's all about self-worth and being seen. And so if you have been feeling that there is something off in your business and you can't quite put your finger on it, I'd invite you to really just take some time to feel into it and ask yourself, if I were to put all the pressures and the shoulds and the things that you think that you have to do to the side, take out a journal and just literally journal on what lights you up. If money was no object, what would you be doing? If there were no rules, what would you be doing? If no one had any expectations of you, what would you be doing? And you will surprise yourself, because a lot of the things that you say, you'll be able to infuse elements of that into your business now. A lot of it isn't about like making giant changes. It's about making little shifts that will actually make you love your business so much more. And the thing is, most people won't even notice or even care. I mean, most of my clients were thrilled that I was bringing this mastermind together, because it's actually answering their problems as well, and it's helping them on their journey. So we sometimes think that like once we make a decision or once we launch something that we're tied to it exactly as is, and that just isn't the case. It just really isn't. It's up to you to design your business the way that you want to do it. And it's the perfect opportunity to just take some time and look at what can you shift. If you are new to self-development and personal development and doing some of that inner work, I've actually put together a GPT prompt that takes you through some strengths training, that takes you through your human design and a couple of other tests like that within a GPT prompt. And that can be incredible as a starting place. So just DM me on Instagram GPT, and I'll send it right over to you. But that can be such a great starting point to even just look at that and do some of that self-discovery around, okay, how does your energy work? You know, how, like, do you prefer to work in batches? Do you prefer to have something ongoing? Like, how do you actually like to work? And then once you do that in the GPT and you've identified those areas, you can then put a summary of your business model as it is now and just compare. Is this a fit for your energetic imprint? Is this a fit for your personality type? And if not, what are some simple shifts you could do right now to make it more aligned? It's really not about, throwing the baby out with the bathwater here. It's about just continuously making these 1% changes, because as cheesy as it sounds, your business and your life is like a garden. And if you're not continuing to prune away the dead wood and, uprooting the weeds, then how is anything meant to bloom and flourish? It's not something that's nice to have. It's actually critical as you move forward with your business to, number one, have a successful business, but number two, not end up creating a successful business that you absolutely resent and that you don't even want to be a part of anymore. So I hope this has been a good insight and a good invitation for you to really look at how you can design a better life and business for yourself. And I can't wait to see you next week.